Hello, welcome to another episode of Cybersecurity Learnings. Today we have another great incident that we can showcase to you. And so this is basically a company that makes a B2B platform. And what resulted is that somebody rebooted the server and ended up affecting about 15,000 partners across India. So that is the gist. So now, what should not have happened with in this case?
Okay, let me give you the whole detail. B2B platform,
Right.
hosted on Azure.
Azure.
On Azure, it is hosted as a lift and shift application. That's a one wrong thing, but fair enough. They have two machines as Active Directory and multiple of the servers, application server, database server, talking to that Active Directory for authentication. One fine evening, and that's a scary Wednesday 3 p.m. evening. Wednesday 3 p.m. evening, what happened is somehow the primary domain controller was not responding. Happens, could be any reason.
Yeah.
The primary domain controller was not responding, and hence none of the application or the system was able to authenticate. So they had to switch over to the backup domain controller, BDC, or additional domain controller, so to say. But it was not working. And then in panic, the company went ahead, raised a ticket with Microsoft. Now the ticket is raised with Microsoft. Microsoft is looking into the problem. Somehow, whoever was assigned from Microsoft, he looked at the setup. The mistake was the IP address of the backup domain controller or additional domain controller was not listed in the system. Why? See, generally what happens in an enterprise environment, over the DHCP, you get both the IP address in your DNS setting and you talk to the DNS servers. Correct. This was not the case here. It was manually entered and the IP of only the primary domain controller was entered. So now this machine is not able to talk to the additional domain controller, which is alive, because the primary is dead and I know only one machine. Unable to access. So the Microsoft guy jumped into support, looked at it, said, we need to change the DNS pointing. Right. We have to add another DNS entry. And if we do that, the machine will require a reboot. Fair enough. Although it's not a right thing or a right statement. But yeah, he said that it has to be done.
Now remember, this reboot request was done at about 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. Like core business time.
Core business time. So 17,000 end
partners.
End partners, not even end customers. End partners were online.
B2B, yeah.
So the IT administrator said, oh, Microsoft support is saying restart, let me restart. Incidentally, the machine which got restarted was one of the database machine in the cluster.
Cluster, correct.
Cluster without any developer or the site reliability engineering team around.
Yeah.
A cluster reboot caused a blast.
So basically, the support engineer did not inform the dev team that they were going to perform a reboot. So downtime. So lesson number 1, when you need downtime, please bring the necessary people into confidence when performing downtime.
When I jumped onto the call, Microsoft person, the administrator, the director IT of this company, everybody was there, and the database cluster is not coming up. We have to turn it on. We have to do something. All those activities are going on.
And by now, already the CEO to CEO calls have finished.
Okay, there are multiple CEOs.
Right, multiple CEOs.
Multiple CEOs, and
so the fire is at level 5 by now.
Okay. So they said, please have a look. I said, when I understood and I was going through all the chat and I said, why are we looking for a reboot? So he said, sir, there was a manual entry. The mistake number 1, if you are doing a DHCP in a corporate environment, it is automatically done. The similar setup is available in Azure. In the Azure panel, you can configure it so that the system on its boot or on its DHCP frequency talks to the Azure, picks up the updated entry and keeps it with
us. Correct.
That was not done. So we kind of quickly added those IP in Azure. This whole machine which is not talking to the new one and the DNS has to done. I just helped them out with few commands on flushing the older DNS cache, registering a new DNS entry, adding a new IP address in the interface to request the DNS entry, and then doing a AD sync check.
Basically, no reboot needed.
No reboot needed. And frankly, when you run all of these commands from the command, you do not need a reboot. Oh no, sir, but it may cause a restart. That was the response from the Microsoft guy. Microsoft support person. I said, okay. I spoke to the director. I said, give me one machine which is okay for you to restart if it restarts. Not a
Right.
database cluster kind of a machine, a bare minimum smaller machine. We went on to one, we tried, and it worked. That's why it works.
Right.
It happened. Then they went ahead and started doing it on all the machine, and finally, no further restart. Only these two machines. They did one for application server, which was not a bad thing. Nothing wrong in that, but the database cluster got broken,
Correct.
and it has to be rebuilt and all. So the DB team and everybody jumped into that activity to build. The rest of the servers were done.
Correct.
Mistake. You are an administrator of that Azure environment.
Correct. Absolutely right.
You cannot blindly accept a shutdown request from a support person who may have zero clue
Alright.
about your criticality, about your setup, the way things are configured.
Your SLAs, your business needs, nothing.
Forget that. Even on your database cluster side, the person doesn't know that this machine is a part of the database cluster or is a master node of a cluster.
Correct.
He may not know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a responsibility of the application developer, it's a responsibility of the application administrator to know that a restart cannot be allowed on this
machine. Correct.
Can we have some alternate mechanism? Can we escalate? Can we get more senior people on the call?
So this also means that an SOP for downtime or incident management, incident support was not performed.
By the way, all of those things are very fancy words. Many of the companies do not have those IR documents and IR plans, and when these kind of
things happen,
when this kind of X hit the fan,
yeah,
you have to go and start building those documents. But that's the scenario. So simple. Once you are doing your configuration, Azure, AWS, GCP, or any environment,
right,
do a thorough, well-architected review at the end before going into production.
Correct.
So you know things are configured in a right manner.
Right.
And a documentation is maintained that whoever is jumping onto a disaster call like this would understand what is to be done, what is not to be done.
Right.
And this could have saved a day.
Yeah. And frankly, don't just perform reboots in the middle of business and have your SOPs in place. Just because someone tells you do something doesn't mean you do something.
See, there's an old saying, right? Microsoft, minor problem, restart. Major problem, reinstall. The jokes apart, the support guy also thought there's a minor problem. Even if we just do a restart, it should be fine.
Right.
The outsider will not know your environment. You know your environment. You have to be clear.
And this incident happened something around 3:30 in the afternoon. They called us around like 6 in the evening.
6 in the evening.
Yes. By 7, things were working. Right, 6:45 something they were working.
By 7:15, everything was up and running. Yeah. Tested that things are back in shape.
Correct. All the due diligence was done by 7:15. But 3-4 hours.
3-4 hours of downtime in the middle of the week, and everybody who was affected had their end of the day and then gone home.
Right. So there's no way to come back from that. Anyways, but that's what happened, and that's some learning we have in the environment. What else can we say?
Be ready with such kind of setup. It can happen to anyone.
Right.
Just know your environment properly,
right,
so that you can fix this kind of problem.
Cheers.